Okay, so installment 4 of W.I.L. Why I Left. Okay, going out again to Mark Gibson, USAF. Okay, so I left you with Muhammad and Ibn Mark's Why I'm Not a Muslim. So that was like a Lady Macbeth. Out, damn spot. Hands dirty. How can I have anything to do with that? That's what it was to me. That being the case, how could I look at Baha'u'llah? Are you kidding me? I can't call Muhammad a prophet if his hands are that dirty. And for lots of other reasons too. But I'm just going to focus on that one for no particular reason whatsoever. Then yeah, if I couldn't consider him a prophet, what did that do to Baha'u'llah? Well, it negated him. It didn't negate the beauty of the words he said in his poetry, of the hidden words, let's say. It didn't make anything in 7 Valleys and 4 Valleys less compelling. It didn't make anything in the Aqudas less interesting, but it did make it less important as far as what I saw for that world that, he was describing, that at the outset, sounds so amazing. When I talked to you about, you said the logical sense. Yeah, that sounds fabulous. Not quite a utopia, but sure. And worse, no longer truth, because for him to no longer be a prophet, and then of course, that takes out the Bab and Baha'u'llah, then, the chain prior, of Zoroaster and Krishna and Buddha and Adam and every unnamed greater and lesser prophet, right? So then I was left with, Judaism, but that didn't stay there. And like I said, I wasn't looking for Christianity. I've jokingly called myself the green eggs and ham of Christianity, because if you've ever read that child's book, it's this incessant, request, would you, and giving every different situation, for him to try, but it isn't until he tastes it that all of those different circumstances around which he would enjoy it don't make any difference at all. He enjoys it, so he's going to enjoy it anywhere, right? And that's kind of what I felt about every other different kind of Christianity that people tried to share with me. It was pray in this way, or believe in this way, or you'll go to hell, and if you don't speak in tongues, and you're going to hell, and this is going to happen to you because you're going to go to hell, and you have to believe that, God hates you and hates your sin, and all these, awful disgusting things that, aren't even true. And some Christians would say that that wasn't even true, that they would have told me that. But I can tell you what I experienced. Yeah, they just told me I was going to hell, and that, I was disgusting just because I was a human being, Well, thanks a lot. But how can I go and feel comfortable to, think of that as any kind of deity that I'd want to have anything to do with? Or one that would be so cruel to, punish his own son and all that bloody ugh. Jews, we don't like that business. That's the most distasteful thing that we could imagine. I mean, there's a few more, but really, that's like the top of the list. How dare you, right? So that wasn't ever going to fly. But what happened was, someone had asked me a question, And the thing of it is that, you know, I've asked him about this later. Did you know what you were asking me? And he admittedly he didn't, for the fact that he simply meant it as a query, like not casually, but to establish the basis of communication. Because we had been corresponding, this is YusefAl-Tahir, that we'd been corresponding all these letters or whatever. And actually, I think that, yeah, we had Skyped by then, and oh my gosh, he's got like, well, at that time he had like 700 videos, and I had watched them all. Anyways, so after all these letters and all these questions and, you know, Skype and everything, he had asked me in this one letter, you are my sister in Christ, are you not? And I could not answer that question. And I knew I had to figure that out. Now, the Skype happened all later. This all, I think, yeah, that all happened later because then we had established, you know, like what we were talking about finally. So I had to go about figuring out, was I that? Okay, so how would I figure that out? Well, that's where the supernatural stuff comes in. That night, that was the 27th, and that's the night that I count. And it really may or may not be, and I don't remember why I picked that date, and I can actually look, but it happened to be the night that a relative of mine passed away, one whom I was incredibly close with. And that night, when I had set about to myself, okay, how in the world am I going to figure that out? Because if I'm going to answer, it's going to be a real answer. I'm not going to just say that. I want to know what that means. And if I don't know what that means, even by someone else's definition, if I don't even have my own definition, right, I'm not going to say yes just to make a conversation. You know, that would not have satisfied me. So I knew that I wanted to like pray and meditate about it very much, and that's what I did. So it was, let's see, okay, I remember I started with Psalms, and I read a lot of the Psalms, and I read First Kings, and I read, and I think this is where it was that I read it in Ezekiel. And the portion of Ezekiel that I happened to pick, strangely, is one that I had never remembered ever hearing before in English or in Hebrew. And that was odd to me because, you know, in Hebrew school, I remember, you know, we studied every single of the 5 books. So it was strange to me that this particular word stuck out to me and that I had never noticed it before. And it happens to be Damascus. Okay, so Damascus, I got to that word and I'm so upset. No! You've got to be kidding! Okay, because Yusef is like Syrian Antiochian, right? Eastern Orthodox. Where's Damascus? It's in Syria. So that was like, oh, it's that thing. Okay, but I was as equally thrilled as I was furious. Because, okay, then it was, I had finally found it, but then it was, I don't want it to be that. Oh gosh, no, not that. Because it can't be that. No, it couldn't be that. All right. So then, after I have that recognition, the next part I don't really have a way to describe to you, because it's indescribable. But I did have a spiritual experience, and I knew after that that I could say that I was his sister in Christ. there are some details about it, but I don't know if they're meaningful enough to another person to share, because and I don't mind sharing it if you want me to say, but it's going to sound probably kind of stupid, because if you didn't have the experience, it's kind of like when you hear someone talk about a movie, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, uh-huh, but you can't laugh at the joke as well, right? Because you weren't at that movie. So I can tell you, but I don't know if it'll mean anything to you, because you know it wasn't your experience. And even if you prayed all those prayers that I had prayed, and had the same question, you wouldn't necessarily have the same outcome. It's not like a magic formula to all of a sudden turn you into a person who's interested completely in leaving the Baha'i faith and going into, Eastern Orthodoxy. So, due to the fact that that happened the night that that relative passed away, that was significant for another reason. And that has to do with family history, I guess I could say, and supernatural experiences that I've had. So, suffice it to say, it is the reason, and this is the first time I've ever talked about this, because people have asked me, what's with that name? It's like 4 names and 12 letters and all. The relative who passed away, she was my great aunt Ruth. Okay, she's the Ruth and Cattle is Ruth. Maybe another time I'll explain what the other ones are. It doesn't really matter. It's just the name. But so he asked me that. I had to answer. I could finally answer. Then what was I gonna do? Oh no! I finally had the answer. And it's kind of like when you win at the Olympics. Where do you go? You have nothing to do. Once you've got your answer that you've been looking for your whole life, what do you do? So I couldn't stay where I was. So I had this like 3-week period where I'm hanging out in this odd limbo of I'm not undeclared and I'm Christian and I don't even understand any of this. So I guess we're going to part. Thanks very much for listening and having such great questions. Peace.